Hi, this is Starkey Sowers. Welcome again to another Plus Program training series. Today's topic is fermented foods, and this is part 2. So as we were talking about in the first segment, we were talking about different types of fermented foods, and we were saying that milk-producing bacteria cultures such as yogurt and kefir oftentimes are considered the foundation of fermented foods. At the same time, a lot of people just can't handle milk or don't like milk products. They might be looking for another type of bacteria culture other than milk-based products, so to speak. So a couple popular ones would be like kimchi, as well as maybe like sauerkraut. Another one that's so popular is kombucha. Kombucha tea literally has been growing as far as a product base that you can get on our shelves since roughly about 1992. Seems like every year we get more and more kombucha products on the shelf. Kombucha definitely tastes good and has some really cool benefits. So let's look a little bit at kombucha. Couple different things. First of all, a lot of times people call it a mushroom beverage. It's not a mushroom beverage. It's actually a yeast beverage. It's a symbiotic yeast where it actually has bacteria and yeast that kind of grow together to produce the culture. So when we look at kombucha being a yeast product, it's a little bit different. So one of the things we want to do is kind of look at some of the attributes, and we're actually going to tell you how to make this stuff. But let's look a little bit more at the history. So when we look at kombucha, we can roughly date it back to about 212 or 212 BC. And we see that the Chinese are the first individuals that start using kombucha. Ultimately, it kind of goes out through the trade routes and ends up in Russia, some Eastern European countries, as well as it also ends up in Korea. Ultimately, about 415 AD, we see it actually make its way to Japan. It becomes a super popular beverage in Japan because the samurai warriors end up using it and drinking it on a regular basis, kind of making it a foundational product. All right, so you might be thinking, well, what about kombucha and what does it exactly do? So there's a couple unique things about kombucha. Number one, it produces what we call lactic acid and also has Bacillus coagulus bacteria in it, which is a probiotic. So ultimately, lactic acid, as you might remember from the first training segment, actually discourages the ability for bad bacteria to be able to colonize or grow in the body. The other thing it does, it also has Bacillus coagulus, which is a probiotic. So it actually helps keep bad bacteria from being able to grow and actually encourages favorable good bacteria growth throughout the whole intestinal system, being good for the immune system and things of that nature. The other thing it does is actually produces a product or a substance called glucuronic acid. Glucuronic acid is necessary for liver detoxification, especially of different types of estrogens and things of that nature. So it's actually known as a liver enhancer, or helps the liver to work a little bit better as well. Another thing is acetic acid. Acetic acid helps with digestion, and then it also has polyphenols on it. The polyphenols are great substances because they're antioxidants, and as an antioxidant, it makes kombucha basically a youthful food. All right, and it also produces what we call a functional food. The polyphenols make it a functional food product. Being a functional food, it actually has function other than just a beverage, so to speak. All right, so with that said, let's look at a couple other things that are unique about kombucha, and let's look at how it's made. So when we look at kombucha and how it's made, it's very interesting. First of all, the ingredients are typically black tea. They suggest that organic black tea would be the best. Second on the list is white sugar, and you heard it right, white sugar. A lot of you guys might be thinking, well, what about honey or something like that? Well, they actually find that white sugar ends up being the best substance to help that bacteria to actually grow and produce good bacteria. All right, so white sugar is the animal we're going to use. Then on top of it, what you do is you get a SCOBY. Typically, a lot of times, especially in the kombucha culture industry, you might get it from a friend. We actually sell them in the stores. You have to have a kombucha culture or a SCOBY, so to speak, to start with it. And then typically, you'll get a little kombucha from another product, whether you buy it from the store or whatever the case might be, and put a few ounces in, put it in a container, kind of crisscross some tape over the top, let it sit for roughly about 7 to 10 days, and that SCOBY will actually reproduce itself. And you peel it off, and then you have a SCOBY for the next batch that you actually produce. And then it continues on and on and on from there. So it's kind of a reproducing product, which makes it kind of unique. So with that said, one of the things that's unique about it, as we said, is what it produces. It produces lactic acid bacillus cultures, number one. Number two, it has polyphenols, which are great antioxidants. The other thing that it has specifically is it has the glucuronic acid. And so the glucuronic acid, as we were saying, is great for liver detoxification. And then, of course, the polyphenols, being an antioxidant, and acetic acid help with digestion. All right, so it kind of gives you a great idea on how all of a sudden now we've got this fermentable food and it actually produces some really cool things. Well, how would you use it? Well, a couple of thoughts. Number one, believe it or not, what's neat about it is you can actually use this as like a beverage in place of like a cola. So it definitely has like that fizzy effect when you pop it open. It kind of poofs and sounds like almost like a cola. Well, a couple of unique benefits. If you drink a cola, you're going to get roughly 23 to 46 grams of sugar. So if you drink 8 ounces of kombucha, you're going to get about 5 to 6. Man, that's a lot less sugar, making this a lot better cola beverage, so to speak, to drink. Then it's got all the antioxidant benefits. It's also got the antibacterial action with a bunch of other things that help with digestion, making this like not only better than a soda, but a health food for sure. All right, so another thing to remember about kombucha, a lot of individuals are sensitive to different types of yeast. So if you're sensitive to that, you might actually have like a little reaction. So you might want to start off with a little bit. And anybody that's got an immune compromised situation, they might want to check with a physician before they consume kombucha. So that kind of wraps up this series on fermented foods. We see like the whole lactobacillus acidophilus type stuff from the milk cultures, and now all of a sudden we see a great alternative to different types of probiotics being from the kombucha. So it kind of gives you a great segue or a great start when it comes to fermented foods and helping with your body. This is Starkey Sowers. Thanks for watching another Plus Program training series.